Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Taking Action to Keep Children Safe webinar. My name is Kara Zakavich, and I am the Child Injury Prevention Coordinator at the Saskatchewan Prevention Institute. My colleague, Tana Shanks, the CAPC Training and Education Program Coordinator, is with me, and we are happy to partner to bring this webinar to you today. We'll go through the slides until 12:45. For those that need to sign off at 12:45, just do so. If there are questions, please put those in the chat box and we will address those after. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted on our website. The Saskatchewan Prevention Institute is a provincial nonprofit organization founded in 1980. We continue to raise awareness by providing training, information, and resources based on current best evidence. Our mandate to reduce the occurrence of disabilities in children, along with our slogan, "Our goal is healthy children," guides the Prevention Institute's work. The Child Injury Prevention Program works to raise awareness of injury risks and best practices to reduce the number of injury-related deaths and injury-related hospitalizations. Today's webinar is about helping you use the Child Injury Prevention Programming and Action Guide. It is resource 4-008 on our website. You can type that number into the search bar to quickly find it. We will refer to sections from the guide during our webinar. Today is all about digging deeper into the Child Injury Prevention and Programming Action Guide. We'll go through some of the principles, key terms, and our focus will be on helping you use this guide. The last section of the guide addresses influencing public policy. We won't be addressing this topic during this webinar, but center on individual and organization action to address child injury. It is important to think about the language you use when we refer to injuries. When we say injuries, what comes to mind for you? What's the big deal about a broken bone, a cut, a bruise? Isn't this part of growing up? And didn't we all experience this? However, we don't often recognize that we did not experience a serious injury that affected our ability to live, play, learn, or work. Prevention matters. When we, our friends, or our family are injured, it often becomes the most important focus in our lives. Children are going to get bumps, bruises, scrapes, and cuts. Having a variety of experiences in life is important for a child's learning and development. The idea of injury prevention is to reduce the incidence of serious, life-changing injuries. We're focused on preventing big, traumatic, severe injuries such as broken bones, internal bleeding, head and spinal cord injuries, the ones that lead children to hospital stays or worse, death. Injuries are the leading cause of death and hospitalization for children. We have made progress over the years. Although in Saskatchewan, injury rates remain higher than many other Canadian provinces. The chart found on page 5 in your book gives a more detailed picture of hospitalizations due to injury. To learn more about the statistics, you can download the Child and Youth Injury in Saskatchewan 2004 to 2013 report from our website and type in the search bar resource 4-007. What is injury? The definition is found in page 8 of your guide. An injury is damage to the body. It may be visible, for example, a cut or a broken bone, but it may be invisible, like a concussion. The scientific description of injury is when too much or too little energy is transferred to the body. There are many different kinds of energy that cause injury. The guide is on page 9 in your book. The two main categories that we look at are intentional and unintentional. Intentional injuries include suicide, self-harm, homicide, assault, child abuse, neglect. Unintentional injuries are the results of falls, burns, drowning, motor vehicle collisions, and poisoning, among others. Unintentional injuries are those that occur without intent to harm oneself or others. Unintentional injuries are the focus of the work in the Child Injury Prevention Program. Injuries are not accidents. Accidents are random, occur without warning, and have no cause or explanation. Using the term accident suggests that nothing could have been done to prevent the injury. Ask yourself, what could have been changed to decrease the chance or the severity of the injury? What happened before, during, and after the incident that may have affected the outcome of the injury? Every injury has 5 components: cause, intent, location, nature, and severity. We will address these components when we look at a case example. This information is found on page 8, 9, and 10 of the guide. Most injuries are caused by events that are predictable and preventable. Children in Saskatchewan get injured every year. Some of these kids have to go to the hospital. Some even die. Injuries can result in lifelong health problems. Some injuries cause problems that will affect your child all of his life. You can take action to keep children safe. Between 2004 and 2013, there were 16,572 injury-related hospitalizations of Saskatchewan children and youth under the age of 20. This number only includes children who were admitted to the hospital. So if you went to a walk-in clinic or an emergency room or were injured out of the province, those numbers would not be included in this. So we know that there are many more injuries than we have data for. Between 2004 and 2013, there were 691 injury-related deaths of Saskatchewan children and youth under the age of 20. The belief that we have no control over injuries is not true and can't be used as an excuse not to take preventative action. Taking action is important for the health and well-being of children. As a quick example of these numbers, my colleague Tanis experienced an injury being hit by a car, and she was in the emergency room, but she was not admitted to the hospital. So in that example, if she was a child, her number would not be included in these statistics. So before we can begin to take action to prevent injury, we must understand the leading causes of injury for children. In Saskatchewan, the leading causes of injury for children under 10 are falls. Between 2004 and 2013, 2,045 children under the age of 10 were hospitalized due to a fall. That's 45% of all injuries. These numbers, again, only include those who were admitted to hospital. These numbers do not include sports-related falls or playground-related falls. In terms of playground-related falls, between that 10-year period, we had 879 children under the age of 10 that were hospitalized due to a playground-related fall. And almost 80% of these playground falls were of children between the ages of 5 and 9 years. And when the type of playground equipment was reported, the most common type of playground equipment that children fell on or from was trampolines, and then followed by monkey bars and slides. The other leading causes of injury in children under 10 are unintentional poisoning, sports-related, cycling, and fire. Now, why is that? Now, I'll pass the microphone to Tanis to explain a bit further.
Okay, so to begin to understand why injuries happen, we must look at the conditions where injuries occur. What's happening around the child? Well, there's a lot of factors that can play into a child becoming injured. A child could be hungry, tired, or ill, and so they're, out of sorts a little bit. Their caregiver may have medication out. A younger sibling could get into something if an older sibling is watching them. If the house is super busy and the parent is distracted, the parent may not be aware of what's in the environment. A sharp knife could be on the edge of a counter, and a child who doesn't see it may grab it unintentionally or just grab it while the parent is preparing dinner. If the caregiver is tired, ill, or overworked, they may be too exhausted or unable to supervise the young child appropriately. If a caregiver is not prepared for a situation, they might be giving their child a bath and forget something that they think is important at the moment and believe that if they just leave for a second that things will be okay. So it's so important just being prepared for the situation you're in. A sudden change in the environment can impact injury. So going to other people's homes where you may not know where their medication is, or knives or other dangerous items. Another factor could be the equipment you are using may not be safe. It could be, there could be, something could be broken, or it's not being used properly. This also leads to safety precautions just not being followed, or something used incorrectly, like a helmet might not be fitted properly, or your car seat might not be installed correctly. If a caregiver does not know what to expect at different stages of growth and development, this can also lead to injury. Not expecting certain milestones like rolling over or being able to put things in a child's mouth, or climbing on stairs or around furniture. Sometimes adults also assume older children understand risks and hazards involved in play, and this isn't always the case. More information about this is on page 14 and 15 in the guide, if you would like to read further. Children are also naturally curious and do not easily recognize the hazards and risks that are involved in their environment or play. So therefore they need extra precaution and care. This does not mean bubble wrapping our kids or not allowing them to do certain activities. It just means that we can prevent injuries from occurring by altering the activity of the caregiver or child, possibly making a rule that only 1 to 2 children can play on something that could cause a risk, such as a trampoline. Another thing caregivers can do is alter the location of where they and the child are. If a child is on monkey bars, maybe the adult needs to be closer in distance when they're supervising. Altering the timing of tasks, maybe cleaning when your infant or young child is sleeping, so that they're not crawling around or walking around when using poisonous materials. Altering the environment is also important by the caregiver, such as using wall mounts on furniture or safety gates at the tops and bottoms of stairs. It's important to remember that children are not small adults. They differ from adults in a variety of ways, and this can cause children to be at an increased risk for injury. Injuries often happen when caregivers are not directly supervising children. To prevent injuries to young children, we need to determine the appropriate supervision depending on the setting and needs of the child. What type of supervision is appropriate at what age? You can take a look at the section on supervision on page 15 of the guide. In the picture in this slide, injury may have been prevented if there had been appropriate supervision and the use of a helmet. Even young children on trachs need helmets, regardless of whether they are on the road or in the yard. Young children's brains are still developing and therefore have limited ability in many skills, such as watching out for safety, risks and hazards that could be happening around them. Their ability to recognize danger is decreased compared to an adult. Their ability to judge the distance of oncoming traffic is also a lot different than what an adult can do. Injuries often happen when a child reaches a developmental milestone that parents are unaware of or unprepared for. Parents often say, "I didn't know they could do that yet." This includes rolling over, climbing, that sort of thing. Being able to anticipate your child's next developmental milestone before it happens can reduce the risk of injury. The website preventchildinjury.ca has great tips for parents for each developmental age. The main questions on the website for parents are, "My child can do this, so now what?" Then there are certain things that you can do so that you can prevent injury. An example might be, once you learn that your child can roll around, your infant can roll around, change their diaper on the floor so that if you do have to, look away for a minute, they're not going to roll off a high surface. Another way that children are different than adults is their physical development. This information is also on page 14 and 15 of the guide. And it also does not just mean size. For those who work with parents, we must help them understand children's physical development. So one of the things to think about is body surface. Children have a larger body surface area for their weight, making them susceptible to hypothermia because they lose heat a lot faster than adults do. The second thing to think about is children have a narrow trachea. This means that children have smaller airways, and they also breathe more rapidly. A short, narrow trachea in children makes them more susceptible to airway obstruction, choking. Children also absorb more air pollutants like smoke because they breathe faster than adults and inhale more air relative to their body weight. Children's heads are larger in proportion to their body size than adults. This can lead to falling easier. They don't have as much balance as adults do. Children's bones are also different than adults. For example, children's ribs do not fully cover the lower abdomen, and the percentage of cartilage is higher, making them more flexible. So two things. One, their bones are more easily fractured than adults, but two, because their ribs aren't fully covering the lower abdomen, this means that they have less protection for their internal organs, making them more susceptible to trauma. So it might appear that their ribs aren't broken, but they may have trauma to their internal organs. Children's blood volume is lower than adults. This impacts a variety of functions. One of them being that when children lose blood, it may appear to be a small amount compared to an adult's, but to a child, it could mean significant loss. Just something to think about. And then next, the skin. Children have thinner skin. This makes them more at risk for burns, but also quicker to absorb contaminants in the skin than the adults. Teaching children problem-solving skills, how to recognize hazards and assess risks are other important preventative measures that adults can take. There is a difference between risk and danger when it comes to play. Risk is allowing the child to take a chance that has the potential for personal growth. Danger is allowing the child to play in a setting that is potentially seriously harmful. The example of danger in the picture on the slide is allowing the child to play in a park that has a dangerous slide. It is rusty, it has a tear in it with a jagged edge. The picture of the risk is allowing the child to play in a slide park with varying heights, speeds, slopes, and materials. Taking risks and participating in risky play has many benefits for children. such as improved motor skills, like climbing and jumping, social skills, healthier body weight, and increased overall physical activity. When children are exposed to nature, they are happier, have more energy, and are less anxious because they are building resiliency and competency skills. Injuries can still happen in risky play, but the rate of injury is lower than the risk of not participating in terms of overall health benefits. By teaching children basic safety precautions while they play outdoors will help them build skills and knowledge. Some things to think about. The word hazard is often used interchangeably with the word danger. And dangers are a danger to everyone, whereas a risk is dependent on the physical capabilities of the individual. This is why we love the line, as safe as necessary, not as safe as possible. Adults need to create situations and experiences for our children where they can practice skills to know their limits. This will help us find a balance, what kids want for challenges, what they need for their health, and to learn what is hazardous and what is not. Another example of a risk is allowing a child to climb higher on the ladder, as shown in the picture on this slide. The child is climbing to a height that is right for his competency level. If he has had opportunity and experience with this type of activity, there will be less chance of injury. This child's perception of risk will be different from other children's perception and will change as the child develops. It's important for caregivers to be aware of their child's abilities and how much experience they've had in certain activities, such as climbing. Two children of the same age may be able to climb to different levels. As children play, parents can watch and learn their child's level of ability and support the child to take on increasing challenges. This will help parents determine whether they should be within an arm's reach or observe from a safe distance. Physical coordination improves as children age and as children have a variety of experiences. Another example of danger is shown in the sandbox picture on the slide, and that would be allowing a child to play in a sandbox that has glass in it. It is the environment that is dangerous, not the activity itself. Teaching children to recognize dangers is very important.
We've all heard the line, I grew up this way, or I did this, and I was fine, those types of things. And we certainly can't bubble wrap our children. We must teach them. And this slide that a colleague of ours found, I believe off of Pinterest, just presents a new way of looking at how we can keep our children safe and how we can challenge them when they are engaged in risky play or active play. So rather than always saying, be careful or get down from there, we can foster their awareness, help them build those skills, problem-solving skills, by asking these types of questions and challenging them to think about these things and their physical abilities. So I just thought that this was a really a great slide to show.
There are many tools that we can use to study injury and injury prevention, and the two that we use in the guide are the injury triangle and Hayden's matrix. The injury triangle has three key elements. There has to be a connection between the elements in order for an injury to occur. Injuries are prevented by breaking a connection within the triangle. Hayden's matrix helps us consider the components of the injury triangle along with the time sequence of events involved in the injury. It is important to consider what was happening before the injury occurred, what happened at the time of injury, and how the injury was responded to by the host and others. You can find the injury triangle on page 11 and Hayden's matrix on page 12 of the guide. Now we are going to walk you through a scenario and then use both of the tools. we are using a different scenario than what we have used in the guide. Andrea often took Josie, her 4-year-old daughter, to the park near their home. Andrea would often sit on the bench with the other parents and watch Josie play. One day, Josie fell from the top of the climber onto the sand below. Josie lost consciousness for a few seconds, and her mother immediately took her to the emergency room. Josie had a concussion and a broken arm. Andrea was appalled to think that her daughter could be injured so seriously on a supposedly safe community playground. So here, Josie is the host, the climbing structure is the agent, and the social and physical environment is that her mom is supervising on a bench with other parents, and the climbing structure is high from the ground. Now we will use Hayden's matrix to go through the pre-event, the event, and post-event of the injury. Okay, so before the injury occurred, Josie is playing on the playground climber, and she is 4 years old. The agent, or the object transferring energy, is the climbing structure in the playground. The environment, both physical and social, are that Josie is at the park with her mom, the climber is high, and mom is watching from a distance with other parents. At the time of the injury, Josie does not understand how high the climber is. She does not recognize the harm it may cause. Josie loses consciousness for a few seconds. The agent, or what's happening with the agent, is that Josie falls off the climber onto the sand. And Josie's mom is near the climber, and there's a great distance between the climber and the ground. The post-event, or after the injury occurred, Josie is taken to the emergency room and treated by a medical professional. She has a concussion and a broken arm. After the injury, the height of the climber still exists, and it may have been too high for the age and skill level of the child. And the environment after the injury is that mom was able to attend to Josie shortly after the fall and take her to the emergency room where she is provided with care. Now, after going through Hayden's matrix, we may see that the issue is not the playground, and that it was actually the height of the climber and the age and skill level of Josie that may have led to this injury. Because mom was supervising but at a distance, she was not able to be near Josie when she fell off the high climber onto the ground. So even though her mom may have been appalled at the playground, preventing this injury could have happened if mom may have been effectively supervising at a closer distance. And so going back to risk versus danger, playground equipment can be risky, but if we have appropriate supervision in place, injury is less likely to occur. It doesn't mean getting rid of playground equipment necessarily. A part of this webinar and the workbook is to discover where is your influence, where are your skills best brought out. Is it at the individual level, with families, in your community, or within your region, province, or territory? The information on this section can be found in pages 22 to 24 of the guide. Some questions to consider are, where are your skills best brought out? Where can you take action? At home, at work, in your community? At the municipal level with helping to inform bylaws? Can you change your behaviors within your family to prevent injuries? Can you educate others about prevention messages and child development? Can you influence messages on the radio, social media, or posters? Can you organize learning events with parents? Quite often in community programming, we have work plans. And so this is an example of a work plan at an organizational level, but it can still be done at an individual, the activity can still be delivered at an individual level, a family or group level, or even a community level. So just using the work plan, we've developed one example of what an agency could do using the scenario of Josie and her mom. So the objective would be to learn about playground safety and decrease playground falls. One of the activities that we could do to take action to meet the objective is to talk with parents about risky play and effective supervision. What are we hoping to produce? Well, we could do a lunch and learn about risky play and effective supervision with a group of parents that attend our agency or in our community. How will we measure whether it's been effective? We could collect parent feedback after the lunch and learn occurs. What has changed from our action? Parents understand the differences between risky play and dangerous play. Parents have an understanding of what effective supervision looks like and how to do it. And how will we know things have changed? A decrease in playground falls. This work plan can be found on page 38, and you can use it in your agency when planning activities around child injury prevention.
A couple of things just to follow up on from what Tana spoke to. Just going back to the child development piece, many young children will use products in the home in a way that was not intended for that product. So for example, maybe a powerful magnet, one of those small little magnets, they might think that I can use that as a nose ring, and they'll put it on their nose and then they'll ingest it right into their body. So we need to know what our children are capable of doing, what they're capable of finding, right? They're going to go digging, and as she mentioned, that they're naturally curious. So we need to, one of the actions then can be that we keep small items such as magnetic toys and jewelry away from young children. Another product in our home in terms of home safety and preventing injuries would be many children have been strangled by window, blind, or curtain cords. So they might think that it's fun to wrap the string around their neck as a fake necklace. So we'll need to either cut the cords short or tie them up high to keep them out of children's reach. And again, this all goes back to us understanding as parents and caregivers what our children can get into. And then another example might be a children might say that they can hide on the top bunk from the monsters under their bed, and then they may suffer an injury from falling off the top bunk. So, again, making a rule that we only allow children over the age of 6 to use the top bunk, and making sure that, we're nearby, for example. And again, another, as we mentioned, falls are the leading cause of injury. Children are using drawers to climb up and turn on the television. So climbing furniture to reach items that they want. So making sure that we never use a dresser that has drawers as a TV stand, and then using anchors or some kind of a furniture strap to secure the TV and the furniture to the wall.
Okay, so we have a few questions. One of them is, how do we get the guide? So you can get the guide from our website by typing into our resource bar, resource number 4008. We also have hard copies. You can contact one of us. The information is on the slide right now. The second question we have is, are there presentations that we can share with community groups, parents, or schools? We can definitely work with you to put together a presentation that we could just share with you. Again, you can contact Kara or myself.
There's many topics within injury prevention, and so again, if you go to our website, skprevention.ca, and you click on the topics tab and then the safety tab, there are a number of safe topics that you can request a presentation on. And we did not plan to send out certificates for professional development hours for this website in terms of print copies, but if you send me an email, my name's Kara, you can send, my contact information is on there, send me an email and I can email you a PDF copy that you participated in this webinar. Okay. Well, we're a little bit ahead of time. We've got another 10 minutes or so for the webinar, so keep your questions coming in. This webinar will be posted on our website, and if you click on the Professional Development tab, then we will have that webinar posted there as well. Okay, so another question came in about the fires and burn statistics. Again, that would be in our report. So if you go to our website, skprevention.ca, type in the search bar 4-007 to pull up the Child, Youth, and Injury Report. It will be in there. There's a section on fires in there. And I can tell you, in total, from 2004 to 2013 in Saskatchewan for children under the age of 20. Fire and burns were, the number of hospitalizations was 304. We also have a summary sheet that just shows just the numbers, and you can also locate that summary sheet on our website. If you're having trouble locating the Child and Youth Injury in Saskatchewan summary sheet off of our website, send us an email and we will help you to find that. Another question was that we have not looked at injury statistics for other provinces. We're a provincial organization, so we only look at ours. We do communicate regularly with other injury prevention professionals across Canada, and we've read, or reviewed some of their reports, and we find that there are similar statistics across some of the provinces for sure. And do we have any resources that are parent-friendly that we could give around baby-proofing the house? Actually, yes, we do. We have lots. So we have a few, again, go to the website, just click on that safety tab, and then you will see home safety, falls, all those things. We do have a chart that talks about the developmental stages right on the website. What can your baby do? And then looking at your home from the child's perspective. So getting down on your hands and knees, crawling around your living room, seeing what your children might be climbing on, pulling down on them. Maybe it's cords from lamps, freestanding lamps, those kinds of things. So there's some really good information right on the safety tab of our website. And if you go to the resource catalog tab as well on the website, there are a number of resources that you can download for free and print off, or you can order through our shopping cart. We have 4 more minutes, so keep your questions coming. And one of the reasons that we're doing this work in injury prevention is to change our parental attitudes, our societal attitudes, but also because Saskatchewan injury rates remain higher than many of the other Canadian provinces. And that is outlined in the Child and Youth Injury Report. All right, I think the questions have stopped coming in, so I think we will end the webinar there. Thank you very much for your participation and your interest in this webinar. Again, don't hesitate to contact us here at the Prevention Institute if you have any questions. Focusing on the prevention of injuries is an important way to reduce child hospitalizations, deaths, and related costs. Have a great day. Take care, everybody.